3 calls of pan-pan are used in radiotelephone communications to signify that there is an urgency on board a boat, ship, aircraft, or other vehicle, but that, for the time being at least, there is no immediate danger to anyone's life or to the vessel itself. This is referred to as a state of urgency. This is distinct from a mayday call, which means that there is imminent danger to life or to the continued viability of the vessel itself. Thus pan-pan informs potential rescuers that a safety problem exists, whereas mayday will call upon them to drop all other activities and immediately initiate a rescue attempt. Etymology. As with mayday, the emergency call pan-pan derives from French. In French, pan is broken, a breakdown or a mechanical failure. In English, it is also sometimes pronounced as a 3-letter backronym, possible assistance needed, or pay attention now, is derived from pan. It is used in maritime and aeronautical radio communications courses as a mnemonic to radio and communications operators, specifically to reaffirm the important difference between mayday and pan-pan emergency communications. Usage. The correct usage is pan-pan, 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 followed by the intended recipient of the message, either all stations, all stations, all stations, or a specific station, Victoria Coast Guard Radio, Victoria Coast Guard Radio, Victoria Coast Guard Radio, the identification of the craft, its position, the nature of the problem and the type of assistance or advice required, if any. An equivalent Morse code signal used to be XXX, with each letter sent distinctly. It is also correct to use pan-pan as a preface if relaying a mayday call from another station that is out of range of the station they are trying to contact. This is common in aviation VHF communications but not in nautical VHF communications. Nautical examples examples of the correct use of a pan-pan call from a boat or ship may include the following cases, provided the skipper or master remains confident that he or she can handle the situation and that there is no current danger to the life of any person or to the safety of the vessel itself. Once the urgent situation which led to the pan-pan broadcast has been resolved or contended with, conventional practice is for the station that initiated the pan-pan call to make a follow-up broadcast to all stations, informing them that the urgent situation no longer exists. A call that originates as a pan-pan signal might be followed by a mayday distress call if the situation deteriorates to the point of grave and imminent danger, thus warranting immediate action on the part of listeners in accordance with standard operating practices for distress signaling. Fouled propeller, engine failure or out of fuel, provided the vessel is now either anchored or under sail and safe from any immediate danger of collision or stranding. The crew may be planning to clear the propeller, refuel from onboard supply, hoist sail or use some other alternative propulsion. Alternatively, as part of the pan-pan call, the skipper may request a tow from a suitable vessel, if possible, but without immediate urgency. Small fire on board are now extinguished. Fire can be very dangerous afloat, but if it was small and contained and is now certainly put out without injury to any crew, then a pan-pan call is appropriate to warn others that investigations are underway to establish the extent of the damage, clear the smoke from below and hopefully re-establish passage as soon as possible. Unsure of position, provided there is no apparent danger of stranding or hitting rocks, a pan-pan call on marine VHF radio may allow nearby coast stations and perhaps other vessels to triangulate the source of the transmissions and provide the captain with both a fix and perhaps some advice on the best course to steer to reach a safe haven. Man overboard recovery. If safely recovering a person overboard, a pan-pan call on VHF makes other nearby vessels aware of the situation and ensures that they keep a lookout, avoid coming too close, avoid excessive wake or otherwise interfering. It also alerts them to the fact that the recovery vessel is maneuvering for urgent life-saving and is therefore restricted in its ability to maneuver in accordance with the international regulations for preventing collisions at sea. If the recovery vessel has lost sight of the person overboard, if the person overboard loses consciousness, if there is a danger of hypothermia or any other grave risk to life, then a mayday call is more appropriate so that other nearby vessels may offer help with the search and recovery, rather than keeping clear. Overdue vessel. the Canadian and U.S. Coast Guard issue urgent marine information broadcasts concerning vessels that have been reported overdue, as part of the process of a communications search or pre-com phase of uncertain, possible distress, as determined under the authority of a Maritime Rescue Coordination Center or Joint Maritime Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Center. The message content, a description of the vessel under the apprehension of being missing, its last known position and the date last heard from, and the supposed route or passage plan of the vessel, is preceded by the procedure words PAN PAN and will be addressed to all stations. Any stations having information concerning the whereabouts of the named vessel are asked to communicate with and report same to the nearest Coast Guard station. Imminent collision alert. It may be warranted to urgently attempt to make radio contact with an approaching vessel that is running into danger or approaching a dangerous close quarters situation and therefore at risk of colliding with one's own vessel, and warning the operator to keep clear. This would be a bridge-to-bridge communication and could be done in combination with sounding the your intentions are unclear or not understood sound signal, which is 5 or more short horn or whistle blasts, the danger signal. A short blast is 1 second long, compared to a prolonged blast of 5 seconds duration under the COREGs. An urgent warning could also be given over the radio, for example, if the called vessel appears to be unaware that it is potentially or at risk of endangering a person in a small boat or a person swimming, such as running the person down. A loud hailer could also be used along with a radio warning. Medical assistance. A PAN PAN Medico call was recommended if someone becomes injured or in need of medical help at sea. If the vessel is heading to shore and wants to be met by an ambulance crew, the local Coast Guard station can arrange this. A doctor or other trained medical advisor may also be available on the radio, perhaps by patching through via telephone from a shore or from a nearby vessel. If there is immediate risk to life, then a mayday call is more appropriate. PAN PAN Medico is no longer in official use. Marine rescue organizations, such as Coastal Patrol, Coast Guard, and Search and Rescue listen on marine radio frequencies for all distress calls including PAN PAN. These organizations can coordinate or assist and can relay such calls to other stations that may be better able to do so. Aeronautical Examples The call was used during the urgent emergency landing request sent as a result of the electrical fire which was to destroy Swissair Flight 111. Also, in the wake of Avianca Flight 52, the call is frequently used to denote situations where fuel is getting low for given conditions, but not yet at a critical emergency state. Qantas Flight QF74 used the call PAN PAN PAN, when it had an engine failure on its fourth engine soon after takeoff from San Francisco. Qantas Flight 72 issued a PAN PAN when the aircraft experienced rapid, uncommanded movements in which the plane dropped several hundred feet without instruction from the flight crew. Several passengers and crew suffered major and minor injuries, and so the call was upgraded to Mayday. Qantas Flight 32 issued a PAN PAN when one of its four engines suffered an uncontained engine failure shortly after takeoff in a flight from Singapore to Sydney. Air Berlin Flight 9721, on an Airbus A330 with registration DALPA, issued a PAN PAN on May 5, 2012, 15 minutes before touchdown at Munich from Palma, Mallorca, when the crew reported fatigue to the traffic controllers and requested autoland. They in turn had to organize airspace for automatic landing 15 minutes later. On December 15, 2010, an RAF CH-47 Chinook helicopter with serial number ZH-891 was on a daytime tasking and flight within the green zone when it came under small arms and rocket-propelled grenade fire. A 7.62 mm round penetrated the cockpit and hit the instrument panel, severing 36 wires leading to it from various instruments. The wiring loom was sheared as a result, which caused an instrument's failure without damaging vital components. As the Chinook was still able to fly level, pilot Flight Lieutenant Alex Frenchy Duncan decided to issue a PAN PAN rather than a Mayday to Bastion Tower. The Chinook made it back to Camp Bastion safely without further incident. On October 12, 2013, Cyprus Airways flight number CY303 from Vienna to Larnaca, operated by an Airbus 319-100, Registration number 5BDCN, issued a Pan over Thessaloniki, Greece, due to a crack on the pilot's windscreen. The pilots immediately descended to 23,000 feet to reduce pressure and the risk of the windscreen breaking. The pilots decided the best solution was to land at Eleftherios Venizelos Airport in Athens, Greece, something which they managed after 30 minutes of flight. The aircraft landed on runway 03R, which is a special emergency runway at the Athens airport. Medical advice. One special case of pan is to ask for medical advice. This is a normal pan call including a phrase such as request medical advice, and the identification of the craft, its position and the nature of a medical problem suffered by one of the passengers or crew. This type of call is specifically used in order to get a doctor's advice for a medical problem that does not, in the current opinion of the skipper or master of the vessel, seem to be life-threatening. The phrase pan medico is used in some older reference books, but is no longer in official use. Once patched through to a medical expert either on land or in another vessel, the radio operator will most likely be asked to describe some detail of the symptoms and history of the condition and perhaps some medical history of the casualty too. The doctor will, most likely, be able to recommend first aid treatment and give other advice to make the patient more comfortable, using whatever resources are available on board. In some cases a decision may be made that the medical case is more urgent than the skipper assumed, and so the call will be escalated to a mayday and receive immediate intervention by rescuers, if at all possible. See also, distress signal, SOS, mayday, ZAR copyright curator copyright, vessel emergency codes, ICAO spelling alphabet. References